So we think Cornerstone Learning is now an easy choice because effectively you're getting the best of both worlds. You're getting both the leading learning management system and a state-of-the-art learning experience platform together as one solution. So learning is great on a standalone basis for an individual, but for an organization, if you really want to get the maximum value, you got to tie learning to performance. And when we think about performance, a lot has changed in that space as well. And the reasons aren't great. A lot of people simply aren't satisfied with the way performance management is working today, and the employees are thinking about leaving their job. These stats are pretty dismal, right? 44% of employees thinking about switching employers. Now that survey was excluding Cornerstone. And why? Why do they want to switch? Well, it makes sense, right? We're talking about the need to keep being developed in the modern world because jobs are changing, requirements are changing, the competencies you need to be successful are changing, and yet they feel like they're not being developed. Number one reason people are leaving is because they feel like they're not learning anything. They're not developing, they're not getting better at their job, and even ones who are learning something feel like they don't really have control of their career path. And this is what Josh alluded to as well, right? The need to understand career pathing at a different level. And so...
Is it time yet?
Oh, Carla, not yet. We're talking about really connecting learning to the career path of the employee. But the reality is we've had career path and capability for a long time. The way it worked is if you were in HR, you could go into the system and you could indicate what positions were tied to what other positions. Now that's a good idea if you have a company with 25 employees. If you have a company with 25,000, or like some people in the room with a company with 250,000 employees and thousands of positions, and therefore hundreds of thousands or millions of permutations of career paths, there's absolutely no way anybody is able to do that. But the machine can. The machine can do it. The machine can automatically figure out what the career path options are for any employee based on the history of the company. So from position A, we've had employees go to position C, F, and Z. And we could even tell you what the expected duration is to get to that next position and what development is required to be prepared for that position. That is the promise of artificial intelligence, to leverage machine learning and big data to help you understand exactly how to tie your learning to your career path aspirations. But when you think about performance management, there's also the issue of how do you actually deliver feedback? How do you deliver performance management? How do you ensure that your employees are doing what they're supposed to be doing and are working in an optimal way? Well, most managers believe that the way they do performance management today is not effective. And so do most of the employees. We talked about a couple of years ago the fact that most employees found that the best feedback they got was from their peers, not from their managers. So how do we help facilitate that? We can handle all types of performance reviews. We can deal with continuous goal management. We can help you give ongoing feedback to the employee. We can even handle structured feedback. But we're moving to a different world. We're moving to a world of agile performance management. Why agile? Because that's a word that's used in development these days, in product development. We no longer do waterfall development. Waterfall development was you would write a very extensive and expensive requirements document and specification detailing every aspect of what was to be built. That would take a long time to put together, and then that exact thing would be built. And it might take months, it might take years. And that's what was delivered. Until people came along with the idea of agile development, with scrum masters and stand-up meetings, and the idea that we were going to build to a sprint every 2 weeks. And every 2 weeks, we would reevaluate what we had created, we'd test it out, we'd see if anything needed to change, and we'd keep iterating. Because the problem with waterfall was it might take you years to build it, and by the time it was done, it wasn't exactly what you wanted. So you'd have to go start again. In Agile, you were able to keep improving, keep iterating on what you're doing. And so that same concept from product development organizations is now moving into the whole company, with the idea that all performance management can be agile. That you could have conversations with your employees every 2 weeks and set new goals, because the organization's moving too quickly to set goals once a year. And so Cornerstone Conversations is going to allow you to formalize that process, to document in a structured way feedback that's delivered to the employee on a periodic basis to ensure that the employee and the manager are aligned. But even that's not enough, because we're witnessing an engagement crisis. Now, I actually didn't want to show this because I thought the numbers seemed so absurd. Sounds like the numbers for the inauguration. But this is actually from Gallup. And the good news is that in the US, we're doing much better with employee engagement. Only 68% of our employees are not engaged. Again, this data specifically excludes Cornerstone employees, but we're seeing a global crisis around engagement. And when you have a crisis, the first thing you have to do is you have to admit that you have a problem. You have to identify what the issue is. And we want to help you do this. We want to help you understand what's going on in your employee base, what kind of engagement is out there. So we're introducing today Cornerstone Engage. It's already live, it's in production. And Cornerstone Engage is going to allow you to create any kind of engagement survey or cultural assessment to deliver to your employee base at any time to any population. It will take almost no time to configure or deploy, and it's already set up if you're already using Cornerstone. So this creates lots of opportunities. And I want to invite Summer back up to the stage to talk about Cornerstone Engage and exactly how it works. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back. All right. So thank you for having me back. I am very pleased to be showing you today one of our newer products, which is called Engage. So I'm here on the Engage dashboard, and you touched on it quite a bit, but really the purpose of Engage is to measure employee sentiment. And I want to tell you a little bit about what is a very simple tool to use. At the top here on the left, we have actually 3 dimensions that we want to measure. And a lot of tools out there today just present one score that gives you visibility into employee sentiment. But for our tool, we really wanted to segment three key drivers within the organization, and that's satisfaction. It's important because satisfaction is tied to retention, and engagement is tied to performance, and commitment is tied to an employee's organizational citizenship. And that really means to the extent they'll go above and beyond the job profile they have in their role at the organization. And the reason why we did this is because as Engage continues to develop with new tools, we really want to think about what actionable tools the Cornerstone platform can enable organizations to react to the findings that they have when they use the Engage tool. So let me tell you more about what we're offering today. Below here, when we're looking at satisfaction, we see a score. And the idea is that an organization over time might have multiple survey campaigns. They might have frequent pulse surveys to really tap in, maybe weekly or monthly, to how an employee is feeling about their satisfaction in the workplace. It's best practice, while we can look at it weekly, it's best practice to look at this information quarter by quarter. As we move down the page, we also have a heat map. So if I'm looking at the top of an organizational hierarchy, in the heat map, I can see the child divisions that exist. And the green tile indicates a generally positive score level, and red indicates a lower score level. And so you might want to dig deeper into why a particular area or group within the organization has a lower sentiment. I'd also want to call your attention to this top organizational area called System Administration. It has no scores because there weren't enough respondents. So it's important to know that this tool makes the feedback from the employees in the organization confidential. So unless a certain threshold is hit of respondents, you won't have data to refer to. Next, I'd like to share with you the drivers. So behind this simplified tool is a set of industrial organizational psychologists. It's a mouthful, I practice saying it multiple times. And what they've done is they've designed over 100 questions that are available out of the box to help organizations create surveys that truly measure the science behind the satisfaction, the engagement, and the commitment to the organization. But we also allow organizations to add their own questions if they do want to customize their surveys. So a lot of this predefined template and the science behind it corresponds to drivers. And these drivers are communicating to your HR department, your talent leaders, what are the drivers tied to satisfaction for your employees in your organization. And if we click on one of the drivers that is most correlated to satisfaction, in this example, the question, I am familiar with and understand the organization's strategic goals, you can see that with a survey campaign over time, you can watch as you observe the employee base improve their understanding of strategic goals and therefore increase their satisfaction score. If we return to the dashboard, there's just one more item I'd like to call your attention to. You can include in your survey some open, free-form questioning. So in this example, we asked, how would you describe your company culture? You can see one-word comments that might have been shared by the employee when completing their survey. But one of the interesting components of this particular question is that of all the words communicated by the employees, the system will parse that information and really surface what is the most common sentiment as it relates to that question, how does your employee think about the culture? In this case, they really focused on the word customer. Now, Adam, this event is, a lot of pressure, been preparing a lot of demos. I haven't had a chance to fill in my survey, my sentiment.
Well, Summer, we didn't send out an annual survey. So how do you do that?
Well, annual isn't frequent enough, frankly. This needs to be a continuous feedback approach to understanding your employees' sentiment about the organization. So we send surveys on a weekly basis. So here I have my mobile application open, and the survey can be sent via email or can be available in the mobile app today. And today I'm feeling pretty good. I like working under pressure. So I'm going to select the smiley face emoji. And it's asking me how would I describe our company culture. And I think I'm going to say visionary. And submit, and it all aggregates the information in the Engage tool.
So basically, you could do periodic reviews, you could do annual surveys, or you could do pulse surveys anytime you want.
Yes.
Right from your phone.
Exactly.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
And Summer, what if I'm working with a consulting firm? So I've already been doing engagement surveys. It's nice that you're giving us a bunch of questions to use, but we already have our own specific ones we want to use.
So you can add your own questions to the survey. You can use our questions designed by the IO psychologist, or you can append and define your own questions and tie them to the metrics available: satisfaction, engagement, and commitment.
Excellent. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
We announced this today, but we've actually been doing a beta for this product. And so I want to introduce somebody who's been working on that beta, who's been a participant in that beta, and also is a member of our esteemed client advisory board, and that's Denise from Bonton.
I've never seen my name that big, so I'm kind of liking that.
So Denise, tell us a little bit about Bonton.
Okay, well, you know what, I see everybody out in the audience here, and they all look fabulous, so I'm pretty sure they've already been shopping with us, right? Okay, Bonton is a regional department store. We're based out of the Northeast, the Midwest, and the Great Plains. We have 25,000 associates in over 250 locations, and we operate under 7 different nameplates, which makes it a little complicated at times. So they are, so I have to hold up my thumbs so I can count them all. Bonton, Bergner's, Boston Store, Carson Perry Scott, Elder Beerman, Herberger's, and Yonkers. And so when people ask me and they say, well, I've never heard of your company, I usually say, well, where do you live? And they say, South Dakota. And I say, oh, well, that's Herberger's. So you do know us. We've been in business for more than 100 to 150 years in all of those nameplates. And so that's why we've chosen to keep the names.
That's great. So you've been using Cornerstone Performance for a while.
We have.
Talk about that. How it's went?
You know, I think that a lot of times when people think about performance, they think about the performance appraisal, the annual appraisal that you mentioned earlier. But we actually utilize performance in a couple different ways as well. We utilize performance to do individual development plans, and what an associate does is they actually complete a self-assessment in the system, and it then identifies where they feel there are opportunities based on the competencies that we have defined. And from that, they have a conversation with their supervisor. The supervisor can actually see the IDP in the system. HR can also see this IDP in the system, which is great because then we know they're actually being completed. And that then it spurs on a dialogue about what are my opportunities for development. And from that, they can actually choose various activities or articles to read, or assign themselves a learning module to take based on that competency and its opportunity. So it really has become a great tool and a dialogue on how to improve myself and how to develop.
So we've considered Engage part of the performance suite. Do you think it ties to performance and talent?
I absolutely do, because I think the two go hand in hand. You know, we have done surveys in the past using SurveyMonkey, and You know, it is a lot of work. But it actually tells you a lot about what is happening with that associate and where there are opportunities for us to really make sure that we are tying in our objectives in the organization to their development, and the both go hand in hand to make sure that we are being successful.
And when's your next survey coming out?
So, you know, here's the thing. So, one of the opportunities that we've had in conducting these is, as I said, we've done them on our own, right? And it really takes a lot of time and actually taking the information and manipulating the data and reporting it back, right? And you know, one of the things that we've done recently when we've done them, we've only been able to do them with our corporate associates. So, and the reason is because when you have a selling associate that's on the selling floor, the only computer they actually have is the point of sale device, right? So every time we take them off the selling floor, that is, for 1 hour, that's $250,000. Wow. So it's a big investment in order for us to do engagement surveys, training, and things like those. So we're very excited about the ability to get to that associate from a mobile device that they can actually, the manager at the store level can have access to the data right off the bat. They actually will be able to see, as Summer showed, what the data is telling them. And with our initiatives that we have going on right now to really, I don't know if you've noticed, but retailers are having a little bit of a tough time.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the malls closing, right?
Right,
so that
right.
directly impacts a store like Bonton.
I mean, you put the A word up there, right? The Amazon word. And it's having a big impact on us. So we as an organization are trying to make sure that we kind of tie in to the customer the fact that we are not only a brick and mortar store, but we have online, and we give both options. So we are trying to make this the year of the customer, and by doing that, we also have to make it the year of the associate, right? And we need to make sure that that associate...
Why is that?
Because there's a direct correlation between customer satisfaction and employee satisfaction, right? And you talked about, there's been a lot of talk today here about experience.
Right.
And the two go in hand, so that customer experience and that associate experience are linked. And we want it to obviously improve our business, but it's also important to our talent strategy, right? To make sure that the associate feels a deeper connection to the organization, that they understand the objectives of what we're trying to accomplish. I mean, the question that Summer presented up there is, do you understand the bigger strategy of the organization? We want to make sure that we're doing that with that selling associate on the floor, because they touch that customer every day.
Right.
And so they have to be engaged, and they have to feel like we're doing a good job for them. And this is going to allow us to do that via a mobile device. So guess what? We don't have to take them off the floor anymore, which is huge. We don't have that, obviously, the monetary investment, but we also don't have a logistical investment that is required. Now, you asked me a question, I kind of kept going. So you asked me, when are we going to do this? We're going to start this in a couple weeks. We're going to do our first engagement survey, and it's really going to be tied to what we're trying to accomplish in the organization. And we're going to be taking pulse checks throughout the time of this big initiative that we have to really focus on customer conversion. So we get a lot of foot traffic in our stores. 70% of our customers come in and don't actually buy anything, which is just heartbreaking. So we are really trying to make sure that we are increasing conversion, and we know that that associate on the front lines is key to making sure that happens. So more to come. We'll let you know how it goes. We're super excited about Engage, and we really appreciate you launching this and allowing us to be a part of it. So
Thank you.
All right.
And good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.